What is up, everybody? Welcome. My name is Nick. I am the Nick behind Nick Does Tech Stuff. And in front of me is a Compaq Presario 4880. Compaq Presario 4880 has a 400 megahertz Pentium 2 processor, came with about, I think, 64 megabytes of RAM, had a 6 megabyte ATI Rage Pro graphics card, and also included a 17 gig hard drive. For 1997 was a pretty powerful computer. Bundled with the computer was a Compaq Presario FX 500 or 700 monitor, bundled with the FX 500 monitor and your DVD-ROM so you can take in all of the magic of DVDs of the day, would get you about $23,000, actually $23.99, and that does not include tax. Throwing in taxes, you're looking at $2,500. It's a lot of money for a computer now. I bought you a pretty sick gaming computer now, and this would have the tip of the top of the time. However, this video is not about the Compaq Presario 4880. I actually did a video on that. Love it. So the 4880 was great, but let's say you didn't have $2,500 to blow. There was a powerful alternative. The 4800 series was the tippity top of the crippity crop of the line for Compaq. You also had a 4600 series, which was a mid-tier, and a 4500 series. The 4500 series included your AMD K62s and Intel Celeron processor PCs, but where was that middle? That middle was the 4600 series, and that is what we're here to talk about today. So, without further ado, this little guy is the Compaq Presario 4660. As you can see, it is a little bit smaller than the 4880, obviously hiding in its quite literal shadow. It, however, is a little bit detuned so that it was a little more budget friendly. As I had just mentioned before, the 4880 was a whopping $23.99 before taxes, so about $2,500. It's a lot to stomach. This little guy, the Compaq Presario 4660, was about $1,600 with a included 1525 15-inch monitor and speakers. And so they were about $16.99. So almost $1,000 less, about $800, let's say. So you saved a lot of money getting a 4660. However, you didn't lose a lot of features getting a 4660. If you will note is that the 4880 had some cool features to it. On the front, it had a quick access button suite on the front of the machine that had your play, pause, forward and back, so you could control DVDs and CDs from the front of it, because you could use the speakers and basically turn it into a giant disc player. It also included things for your easy, quick internet access. It had shortcuts for getting to Compaq's websites and support. Also, forgive me, my very cute, needy dog is to my left and wants to be pet, and if I don't pet him, he squeals. But he's very cute, so we'll do that to keep him happy. However, the 4660 has a little bit of a detuned version of that, and I actually wanted to do the video on this 4660 primarily because this was actually one of my first purchases off of eBay. I remember winning the bid for this because it was even before you had buy it now as an option. I remember bidding for this machine on my, I believe it was a Packard Bell Legend computer that literally was shaped like a tower, but I had always wanted a Compaq Presario. This was actually one of the first computers I ever bought on eBay back in the early 2000s.
Why are you so old?
However, this computer has not. Quite impressed at how robust this machine is. I have never had a single problem with this machine. Power supply, RAM, drive, anything. It literally has just kept ticking. I actually use this one every once in a while to transfer files off of because it has a good dependable floppy drive.
That's what she said.
This has an Intel Pentium 2 clocked at 300 megahertz. It came with 48 megabytes of RAM. It also came with a DVD-ROM drive, just like its bigger brother, the Compaq Presario 4880 did. It also included a 8 gigabyte hard drive, so a little smaller than the 4880, but the price was also a little bit smaller, so certainly worth it. Plenty of size for the day. As you look at the front of the machine, you'll notice that obviously it is a bit more squat than the 4880. And you'll notice that it does, of course, have the same kind of drive door. I am missing the drive bay. I actually had a second drive in here. However, I needed to take it out to use in another computer, but obviously there'd be a drive bay there, so hopefully we'll find one here soon for this little guy. But it included a DVD-ROM drive in the front, It had obviously a spare 5.25 bay, so you still could put 2 drives in it if you wanted a higher speed CD-ROM drive for games. If you wanted to upgrade it later in life with a CDRW drive, you could certainly do that. Otherwise, you had a way to play DVD movies, or you could even put a 3.5-inch drive adapter slot in here and put a zip drive in here or whatever you so desired. You also, of course, had your 3.5-inch floppy drive. And then, of course, you had the stylized feet, which made up the base of like the rocket of the ship, so it could, you know, take off and bring you to magic places in outer space on the internet. So the one interesting thing I will say is the 4800 series had a little secondary foot under the front plastic pieces so that it could suck in air. The 4600 does not have that. It is completely solid on the bottom here of the metal, so you really couldn't suck in air from there. The only place it could intake air was from this little vent here on the front of the machine. And then in fact, if I flip the computer around, I think it's kind of hard to catch, but there's actually little vents on this part of the feet here so that it could also suck in air through the side there. Up top here, the machine came with a sun and moon button basically, which was your power button. It came with an easy internet access button, and then it came with volume up and down. So missing some of the controls that the 4880 had. I will say, however, that I don't know of anybody who ever used any of these buttons besides the power button to turn it on and put it to sleep. Same on the 4800. In fact, the FX500 monitor that goes with it has a replication of the button suite, and still I don't know, and I've never used it personally myself, to use any of those quick, easy access buttons. The sides are nothing to write home about. Obviously, it is much, much shorter.
Feeling strong, my friend? Call me Elf one more time.
He's an angry elf.
Than the 4800 series is. The 4500 and the 4800 series shared a similar case, however, not the same case. They do look a lot alike, however, believe it or not, the 4500 series is just a tiny bit taller, and I don't know why they had that little difference in the chassis, but now you can see I have my Compaq Presario 4500 and my Compaq Presario 4600 series, and you'll notice there is a little height difference between these, even though they look very much like the same tower. And you'll see there is a little reveal here. So it's actually got some extra height on it. So kind of interesting. They took almost the identical size tower and made it different. I just found that very interesting that they took a tower that looks nearly identical, and honestly, until I owned that 4500 series, I had no idea had a different size tower than this 4660 does. So the 4660 obviously is a little taller, is a little longer, still holds the same stuff inside. Let's go ahead and spin this around, noting that there basically is no venting on any side of the shell, and there's an interesting reason for that. But on the back of the computer here, which I will now peer over, we have the VGA port, which is literally in the opposite position, interestingly, than the port on the Presario 4880, which is all the way at the bottom. You have your printer parallel port, you have your joystick port, 2 USB 1.0 ports, your mouse and keyboard port, and then your microphone and your speakers. They were Compaq amplified speakers so that you could actually have the computer amplify the speakers, and then your audio in and out there. The serial port. Below that, of course, you've got a couple of drive bay covers. Normally, this computer would come with a 56K modem, which was standard as well. However, this one has a network card because that is more useful for me to get the high-speed internet over the Ethernet that we now have in the late 2020s. We also have the 110 watt power supply. You didn't need that much power way back then to power a powerful computer. Powerful computer. Then this was a plenty powerful computer. The 4880 only had a 165 watt, and the 4824, their bigger, more powerful cousins, 145 watt power supply. So at 110 watts, these still had plenty of beef, even though that sounds like absolutely nothing. That may not even run a main board now. That was actually plenty of power to operate a computer very well. And now what we'll do is go ahead and pop the case off so we can take a look inside, which obviously being a compact tower is going to be a compact tower. How about that? These little guys had little dents so you could put your hands in here. There were 3 screws that you would remove from the back, and literally it kind of slides back and up. It's kind of a little house. We will go ahead and go in for the money shot. As stated before, the power supply is right here in the middle of the chassis. Kind of an interesting choice, but that's where it is. So this is the 110 watt. Obviously right here you've got the floppy bay with the 3.5-inch drive bay. Here is your blank 5.25 bay. And then you may think, where on earth does the hard drive go? There we go. Well, I'm gonna tell you. So its happy home, and since I have no adapters, please don't judge me, was actually right on the top of the drive bays. So that is why it had that beveled top, because it had enough room to fit a hard drive on top of where the CD drives were. Also, I feel like you may have gotten a little ventilation here. You'll notice that there is a bunch of holes in the back and a little Swiss cheese, so as the hot air rose, if you didn't have everything vented out through your power supply, it could naturally vent out through the back. Another interesting thing to note is that obviously it is really annoying to get to the motherboard. There is 2 RAM slots on this board, and there is also an upgradable memory slot for the video. And you may say, okay, well, how on earth do I get to that? It's gonna be super annoying to take this out. And it's not too bad, there are 4 screws, but you have to unplug it and all that fun stuff. The interesting thing with this Compaq motherboard is that it actually had a little retaining screw here that you could remove, and that would actually allow you to slide the board in its entirety back. Once you got it back just enough, this board could actually pop out. Once your PCI cards are obviously removed, because those would hold the board in, you would slide it off, and then literally you slide it back and hinge it forward. And then I'm not gonna unplug the IDEs, but you now see in all of its glory, the Compaq Presario 4660's motherboard. At the top here is literally the video add-in RAM. So you could actually add VRAM into this. I believe the 4620 did not have this chip. I believe it is 2 megs and the onboard is 2. 3D Rage Pro AGP2X graphics chip right there. This is the plugin for the serial port. Here you've got your 2 PC100 compatible RAM slots, your battery to keep it present and on time for your clock. You'll see the Intel Northbridge chip, a random little ICS chip, the beautiful and glorious and very clean, because I make sure to always take care of this computer having had it the longest, Intel Pentium 2 300 megahertz processor. These little guys here are the power plugs for it, are weird, kind of flat. They're not standard ATX plugs. And then you also have your 2 ISA slots and your 2 PCI slots. And then you also have, I believe, your SMC controller, which I think was for the IDE. You have your 2 IDE slots here. You have your floppy drive here. And then also I just spotted down here, we had our ESS audio. It is ESS audio drive, ESS audio 1848. So that is that. You've got obviously a little board heat sink and some capacitors, which are in beautiful shape. I'm very happy to report. That is the inside of the computer and where everything resides, and it literally just slides back in. So as long as you reconnect the appropriate things, you have no problem setting this computer back up, which honestly, I thought was quite nice. Remember to pop in your network card since that was important to have. That is a tour of the Compaq Presario 4660. We've now gone and seen the inside of the machine. You've seen the front of the machine, all of its ports and the power buttons and various things on there. We've seen all of the ports in the back of the machine where everything is plugged in. And I'm sure now what everybody would like to see, let's go ahead, plug her in and watch the magic. All right, we've got the 4660 plugged in. And as I said, I have updated this to a more modern hard drive and it's got a more modern OS. It has Windows XP on it. I figured Windows XP would be good for the compatibility with all sorts of various games. I think I actually am going to try and find a recovery CD so that I can go ahead and actually throw the OEM build of Microsoft Windows 95 on this machine. I think that would be a lot of fun. It boots to Windows. The hard drive obviously is a bit taxed right now. Obviously it's a little mad about that, but as soon as it kind of finishes loading here, let's see if it'll play a game. If not, we're gonna go ahead and shut it down and I'm gonna probably reload this with Windows 95, 98, or maybe Windows XP Media Center Edition, because that would be fun. Yeah, she's mad. So we're gonna have to end this video on this note. The Compaq Presario 4660. Really, really dependable and great until you try and do a video on it. C'est la vie. This is what vintage old computers are. You fix stuff, you work it out, you diagnose it. So let's see if we can shoot anything and if it'll keep playing. Oop, we've got no left and right rudders. How do you play with those? I can't remember. I better find out quick. Is it S and Z? Up and down, left and right, shift, space bar? Oh, well, we died. So, since this computer video is at its end and I do not want this computer to die, see you guys later.